Alright guys, so in this video we're going to talk about how to associate an AP to a virtual wireless LAN controller. So I have switch 1 and I'm going to go ahead and show you the interface, which I have actually already pre-configured here. This is the interface where I have my lightweight access point. In this case it's going to be a 2700 series access point. I have it in Vlan 3, which if you look at show interface Vlan 3, let's see, it is the 1003 network. That is and it's also the default gateway. And I'm using a helper address up to my DHCP server 10.0.10.10. So now this is going to be my VLAN that is dedicated to access point management. So now there is what's known as option 43 that you need to configure on the switches in order to point your access point to the wireless LAN controller. Now I'm doing this particular configuration on a DHCP server, and that is through a different method. So let's go ahead and go through that really quick. Now first of all, that interface is shut down. So I'm going to keep it shut down, and let me just go ahead and show you that it's simply an access port and it's in that VLAN and it's shut down. So that's it. I'm going to keep it there for now. So we're going to have some inception happen here because I'm on a remote desktop right now, but I'm going to remote desktop in to my Windows server here. So I have Windows Server up, and I'm going to bring up the DHCP window. The way you do that is you can go to your server manager, go to Tools, and you open up DHCP, and this is what you get. Now I have a couple of address pools already configured. I guess I can go over very quickly how to create an address pool. The way you do that is you right click, you create a new scope, hit next. You can call it, I'll just call this one VLAN 60. Go next. You enter the range of addresses. So for instance, I usually do 10.0.60.199. So I do those 100 addresses, and I'm going to make this a /24. Hit next. I usually don't do exclusions. I leave the leave state there. I configure a couple of options. So the router option 10.0.60.1 is usually what I do. Hit next. I keep this the same. Hit next, next, and then activate the scope. Next, and then that'll pretty much give you the scope. So the scope that we want to look at is this one, the scope 3 AP management. Now, what we need to do first is set a couple of definitions. The first one is define the vendor class. So you'll notice here by default we have a couple of Microsoft vendor classes, but we need to add a Cisco vendor class. And in this case, I'm going to call this one Cisco AP 2700. Okay. And the reason I'm doing that is because there's some documentation that talks about what specifically to put in this this field here, this ASCII field, and that is Cisco AP space C2400. So it's pretty much exactly the way it is up here. All right, and it has to be exactly that way, no extra spaces, and you click on OK. Now, because I have a couple of different access points that I'm going to add, I'm going to go ahead and add a 3700 here. And if I wanted to do that, I would simply copy, paste. This ASCII field does not allow you to copy paste, so you would have to manually go in here and do this. I want to add one more, and this is going to be for a 2600 because I have a couple of these I'm sorry, 3600. I have a couple of these in my lab as well. And Cisco APC 3600. And click OK. Now once you got those configured, you go and close. And you're going to hit on right click on IPv4 again. And you're going to hit Set Predefined Options. Now here, if you go to the option class, you're going to click on that. And now you're going to see, which you previously would not see, your Cisco AP vendor class. So I have my 2700 configured here. And actually, you're not going to see that. Now, I had already had this configured. But what you're going to see is a blank option name. What you want to do here is add. You can call this whatever you want. I'm just going to call it vWLC IP. And that vWLC value is going to be an IP address. The code for that is 241. Now 241 is just a code that Cisco has designated as the IP address of the management interface. So there's really no way to remember it other than just simply, there's no fancy way to remember it, I should say, other than just knowing it by heart. So go and type that in. I'm not going to put a description, I'm just going to put OK. And I'm going to leave the IP address field that is populated here blank. So I click OK. I'm going to do the same thing, predefined option. Now you notice here, I'm going to go over to 3700. And I have the exact same thing up here. So I'm going to go ahead and keep it there. And now, what you'll notice is under your scope options is that you have the a value here. Now these were not, what I'm going to go ahead and do is delete this one. Under scope options, what you need to do now is go under configure options, and if you go to advanced, then you hit vendor class. I'm going to hit 2700. What you're going to do then is select on this 241 vWLC IP address and then put the IP address here of the wireless LAN controller. So I already have it pre-populated, 10023. So this is a reason why you keep it blank over in the predefined options, because if you decide to put the IP address, what it's going to do is it's going to insert that scope option to every single VLAN, and really that would be a waste, because the only VLAN that we need that to pass to is to this VLAN 3. So once you have these configured, you're pretty much done at this point. Now what's going to happen is your AP is going to go through a DHCP process, and the DHCP server will then send it the IP address 10023, which is my controller. So at this point we are done with DHCP. I'm here on my my lab computer, I believe. Yes, I am. No. Oh, that was my server. Let me bring up my lab once again. Here it is. See, that's what I was worried about. The inception. All right. Well, now I am back in here on my management computer, and I'm going to go ahead and open up the wireless LAN controller. I'm going to go over to advanced, and you'll see that there's no, if I see the all APs, there's 0. And so at this point, what I'm going to do is go into this interface. and then I'm going to no shut the interface. And what's going to happen here is first of all, the AP is going to power on. There it is, port 33. We can give that a moment to power on. Alright, so at this point the switch has registered. This is a 2700 AP. Check CDP neighbor, and there is the MAC address of this AP. Now it should be coming up relatively soon here. There it is, all APs 1. And now because this is a, first of all, this is going through a download process. So what's happening right now is the AP is on version 7.6. Now, because this controller is on 8.3, it's going to go ahead and push down the configuration for this AP. So it's going to reboot a couple of times, and eventually it's going to come back with the primary software version of 8.3. So once it's back, we're just going to have one last thing to do to this AP in order to ensure that it's going to work on this controller. Alright, so the AP has come back up. It rebooted after a software upgrade. Now you can see that the primary software is 8.3.102. So now it seems like everything is up and running at this point, but the one thing that you may not have considered is that the virtual wireless LAN controller only accepts APs that are running in Flex Connect mode, meaning that the data plane is running through local switch mode. So now the way we do that is to hit the AP, and under the AP mode, rather than local, you need to change this over to Flex Connect mode. And once you do that, you simply hit OK or apply and then go back. So at this point you should see that it is in Flex Connect mode. So now we have a WLAN here that I created. I'm going to create a new one, a simple pre-shared key. So I'm just going to call this one wireless PSK. And I am going to use, well, first, let me go ahead and do something here. I'm going to head over to controller and go to interfaces. And I'm going to show you how to create a VLAN. Simply hit on new. You type in the interface name. So let's just say this was for VLAN 60. And VLAN ID 60. Now you go through here and add the IP address information, the gateway, the DHCP server that you're using, and the port number. And at the very end, I'm going to delete this one. But at the very end, you're going to end up with something like this. So I have one called wireless VLAN and one called guest VLAN. I also have an interface for the management of the controller, which is 2, and the AP management, 10.0.3.3. So I'm using .3 for everything. Wireless VLAN is 10.0.40.3. It's on VLAN 40. And the gateway is 10.0.41. So if I go over here and I look at show run interface, VLAN 40, I have my interface VLAN here. So this is a default gateway. Really not that big of a deal. You just have to make sure that you have the VLANs up here and ready to go. So realize also that because your interfaces are on a trunk, that this particular wireless VLAN is going to traverse through the wireless LAN controller. So that's where it should be getting its IP address from. But for sake of simplicity, what I'm going to do is just create a, I'm going to show you the management VLAN, which is 10.0.2.3, and I'm going to create a new wireless LAN called MGMT Wireless, and the SSID is going to be called MGMT Wireless. The ID is 2, it's just fine. I'm going to enable that, and the interface group here is going to be management. I have wireless VLAN and I have guest VLAN, but I'm just going to keep it at management. Under security, rather under layer 2, uncheck 802.1x authentication key management, and instead do a pre-shared key. Here I'm just going to type in Cisco. Layer 3, keep it the same. AAA servers, keep it the same. Everything else is going to be exactly the same. Just keep it there. We can do local client profiling if we want to, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. HTTP and DHCP, so maybe it'll profile me here, and click apply. This will bring up our very first, in the case of this particular lab, the very first SSID. So it wants me to change the pre-shared key to something a little better. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and make it Cisco 123, and let's see if it takes it. There you go. So now we have that wireless LAN created, and it's enabled. Also make sure that you're broadcasting it. Now, if we head over to monitor clients, we don't have any clients currently on the network, but I'm going to grab my iPhone and I'm going to attempt to log in. So if I go over to settings on my iPhone and I see MGMT Wireless, and I'm going to type in Cisco 123 join, and it seems like, there you go, it's joined the network. It's given itself an IP address. In this case, it's giving itself a AP IP address, and I believe this has something to do with the Flex Connect capability and a setting that you may need to change. But the idea is that here you go. You have your client now connected to this to the wireless LAN. You're able to do surfing at this point. If you look at local profiling, maybe it was able to capture some information, maybe it wasn't. But at this point, your device is connected to the internet, and if you want to go ahead and go out and surf out to Google Classroom or to apple.com, you can go ahead and do that through the wireless, and I'm confirming that here. So hopefully this video was informative for you guys, and thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.